What does it mean to be human? Are we defined by our thoughts, emotions, or physical form? These are questions that have puzzled philosophers, scientists, and spiritual seekers for centuries. Today, we're going to explore a concept that challenges our very understanding of human existence. The idea that once you're enlightened, you are no longer human. This might sound strange or even impossible at first. After all, we're born human, we live as humans, and we die as humans, right? But what if there's more to our existence than meets the eye? What if the state of being human is just one phase in a much larger journey of consciousness? Let's start by looking at what enlightenment really means. Many people have misconceptions about this term. They might think it's about becoming super smart, or always being happy, or gaining magical powers. But true enlightenment is something much deeper and more profound. Enlightenment is a state of complete understanding and awareness. It's when you see through the illusions that most people take for reality. It's like waking up from a dream and realizing that everything you thought was real was just a product of your mind. Now let's consider our everyday human experience. We wake up, go about our daily routines, interact with others, experience various emotions, and then go to sleep at night. We have goals, fears, desires, and beliefs. We see ourselves as separate individuals, distinct from the world around us. But here's the thing. All of these experiences are limited by our human perception. Our senses can only detect a tiny fraction of the electromagnetic spectrum. Our brains can only process a small amount of the information that surrounds us. We're like fish in a bowl, thinking that the bowl is the entire universe because it's all we can see. When someone becomes enlightened, their perspective shifts dramatically. They start to see beyond the limitations of human perception. It's like stepping out of the fishbowl and realizing there's an entire ocean out there. This shift in perspective changes everything. The beliefs and patterns that once seemed so important and real start to fade away. The worries and anxieties that used to keep you up at night suddenly seem trivial. You begin to see the bigger picture, the interconnectedness of all things. One of the most significant changes that comes with enlightenment is moving beyond the ego. The ego is that part of us that says, I am this, or I am that. It's the voice in our head that's always comparing, judging, and seeking approval. For most humans, the ego is the center of their identity. It's what makes them feel separate and distinct from others. But in enlightenment, you transcend ego-based thinking. You realize that the ego is just a mental construct, a useful tool for navigating the physical world, but not your true essence. It's like realizing that you're not the character in a video game, but the player controlling the character. This doesn't mean that the ego disappears completely. Even enlightened beings still have a functional ego that allows them to interact with the world, but they're no longer identified with it. They can use it when necessary and set it aside when it's not needed. As you move beyond the ego, your consciousness expands. You're no longer limited to individual awareness. Instead, you start to connect with what some call universal consciousness or cosmic awareness. It's like a drop of water realizing it's part of the ocean. This expanded consciousness changes your entire experience of reality. You're no longer just aware of your own thoughts and feelings. You become aware of the underlying energy that connects all things. You start to sense the thoughts and emotions of others, not as separate entities, but as part of a larger field of consciousness that you're also part of. This shift in consciousness also affects your perception of time and space. Most humans experience time as a linear progression from past to present to future. We see space as fixed and absolute. But in enlightenment, these concepts become much more fluid. You might experience all times, past, present, and future, simultaneously. You might perceive space as a flexible construct rather than a rigid reality. It's like breaking free from the rules of a game you didn't even know you were playing. One of the most profound realizations in enlightenment is the illusion of separation. As humans, we tend to see ourselves as separate individuals, distinct from other people and the world around us. But in enlightenment, you realize that this separation is an illusion. You start to see that everything is interconnected. The boundaries between self and other, between you and the world, begin to dissolve. You realize that you're not just a part of the universe, you are the universe, experiencing itself in human form. This realization changes everything. You can no longer harm others without harming yourself, because you realize there are no others. You can no longer be indifferent to the suffering of the world, because you realize it's your own suffering. Living from this place of expanded awareness is very different from typical human behavior. You're no longer driven by fear, desire, or the need for approval. Your actions come from a place of deep understanding and compassion. You might find yourself naturally acting in ways that benefit the whole rather than just yourself. You might discover abilities or insights that seem superhuman to others. But from your perspective, you're simply aligning with the true nature of reality. This doesn't mean that life becomes perfect or easy. Even enlightened beings face challenges. The difference is in how they respond to these challenges. Instead of reacting with fear or anger, they respond with wisdom and compassion. They see challenges as opportunities for growth and learning, rather than as problems to be avoided. Maintaining an enlightened state can be difficult, especially in the beginning. The habits of human thinking and behavior are deeply ingrained. It's easy to slip back into old patterns, to get caught up in the drama of everyday life. But the rewards of living in an enlightened state are profound. You experience a deep sense of peace and contentment that doesn't depend on external circumstances. You're able to love unconditionally, without fear or attachment. You see the beauty in every moment, even in situations that others might find unpleasant or boring. Your presence alone can have a powerful impact on those around you. People might find themselves feeling calmer and more at peace in your company without knowing why. You might be able to help others in ways that seem miraculous, simply by seeing their true nature and reflecting it back to them. Now, you might be wondering, if enlightenment is so amazing, why isn't everyone enlightened? The truth is, everyone has the potential for enlightenment. It's not something that's given to a select few. It's our natural state, hidden beneath layers of conditioning and false beliefs. The process of becoming enlightened is often called awakening, and it can happen gradually or suddenly. For some people, it might come after years of spiritual practice. For others, it might happen spontaneously in a moment of crisis or profound insight. But regardless of how it happens, enlightenment is not the end of the journey. It's really just the beginning. Once you're enlightened, you have the opportunity to live from a place of true wisdom and compassion, to be a force for positive change in the world. So how can you start moving towards enlightenment? While there's no guaranteed path, there are practices that can help expand your awareness and shift your perspective. Meditation is one of the most powerful tools for this. By sitting quietly and observing your thoughts and sensations without judgment, you can start to see through the illusions of the mind. You begin to realize that you're not your thoughts or emotions, but the awareness that experiences them. Mindfulness is another helpful practice. This involves bringing your full attention to the present moment, whatever you're doing. Whether you're eating, walking, or talking with someone, try to be fully present without getting lost in thoughts about the past or future. Studying spiritual teachings can also be helpful, but it's important to remember that enlightenment is an experience, not an intellectual understanding. Reading about it can point you in the right direction, but you need to experience it for yourself. Self-inquiry is another powerful practice. This involves questioning your beliefs and assumptions about yourself and the world. Ask yourself, who am I really? What is the nature of reality? Don't settle for easy answers. Keep questioning until you reach the depths of your being. Serving others can also be a path to enlightenment. By focusing on helping others without expectation of reward, you naturally start to move beyond the limitations of the ego. Remember, these practices are not about achieving a goal or becoming something you're not. They're about removing the obstacles that prevent you from recognizing your true nature. As you explore these ideas and practices, you might start to experience shifts in your perception. You might have moments of expanded awareness, profound peace, or deep connection with all things. These glimpses can be both exciting and unsettling. It's important to approach this journey with patience and self-compassion. Enlightenment is not about becoming perfect or superhuman. It's about seeing through the illusions that cause suffering and living from a place of truth and love. You might face resistance from your ego, which fears its own dissolution. You might encounter skepticism or misunderstanding from others who can't relate to your experiences. You might go through periods of confusion or disorientation as your old worldview falls away. But despite these challenges, the journey towards enlightenment is infinitely rewarding. Each step brings you closer to your true nature, to a state of being that is beyond human limitations. As you progress on this path, you might find that your priorities shift. Things that once seemed incredibly important might lose their appeal. You might feel less driven by ambition or the need for external validation. Instead, you might find yourself naturally drawn to activities that promote peace, understanding, and harmony. Your relationships might change too. As you become more authentic and less driven by ego needs, you might attract people who resonate with your new energy. Some old relationships might fall away, while others deepen and transform. You might discover new ways of relating to the world around you. Nature might seem more alive and vibrant. You might feel a deeper connection with animals, plants, and even inanimate objects. The whole world might start to feel like an extension of yourself. Your perception of life and death might also shift. As you realize that your true nature is beyond the physical body, the fear of death often diminishes. You might start to see death not as an end, but as a transition, a return to the source from which all life springs. It's important to note that becoming enlightened doesn't mean you stop being human in a physical sense. You still have a body, you still live in the physical world, and you still interact with others who are operating from a human level of consciousness. The difference is that you're no longer limited by human perception and beliefs. You're able to operate in the human world while maintaining awareness of the greater reality. It's like being able to see both the individual waves and the entire ocean at the same time. This dual awareness allows enlightened beings to be incredibly effective in the world. They can relate to others on a human level while also seeing the divine essence within everyone. They can work towards solving worldly problems while maintaining the perspective that on the deepest level, everything is already perfect. As you continue on this path, you might find that your very presence becomes a catalyst for others' awakening. Without trying to change anyone, you might inspire those around you to question their own beliefs and expand their awareness. Remember, though, that everyone's journey is unique. It's not your job to enlighten others or convince them of what you've experienced. The most powerful thing you can do is to live authentically from your deepest truth and allow others the space to find their own way. As we near the end of our exploration, let's revisit our original question. Once you're enlightened, are you no longer human? In one sense, yes. You're no longer limited by human perception and beliefs. You've expanded beyond the boundaries of human consciousness. But in another sense, you become more fully human than ever before. You're able to experience the full depth and richness of human existence without the limitations of ego and false beliefs. You can fully enjoy the human experience while knowing that you're also something far greater. This paradox is at the heart of enlightenment. You are both human and beyond human. You are an individual and you are everything. You are form and you are formless. These apparent contradictions resolve themselves in the expanded awareness of enlightenment. Encourage you to remain open to the possibility of enlightenment in your own life. Don't treat it as a distant goal to be achieved, but as your natural state to be recognized. Let go of preconceptions about what enlightenment should look like and be willing to discover it in your own unique way. Remember, every step you take towards greater awareness and understanding is valuable. Even if you don't experience a sudden, dramatic awakening, the process of expanding your consciousness brings its own rewards. It leads to greater peace, deeper relationships, and a more meaningful life. Stay curious, keep questioning, be willing to let go of what you think you know, and above all, be kind to yourself and others on this journey. We're all in this together, all expressions of the same universal consciousness, whether we realize it or not. Thank you for exploring this profound topic with me. May your journey be filled with insight, growth, and awakening to your true nature. Remember, the enlightened state is not something to be gained, but something to be recognized. It's already here waiting for you to notice it. Happy exploring.